What's up guys, hi and welcome to Hampton Court, the Thames, London, home of Henry VIII. So we're going to do a walk around outside the grounds, the perimeter of it, to do some paranormal, because as usual these museums are very heavy with paranormal messages. And we've just got sad, is that?
Sad.
Okay, well there is a lot of sadness attached to this place. The story of Henry leaving his first wife, Catherine, Aragon, to marry Anne Boleyn, and all the trouble over that. Cardinal Wolsey owned this palace before Henry VIII. And then Anne was crowned Queen of England, and 3 years later she was beheaded. And then another person took her place, Jane Seymour, and all of those queens resided here at this palace behind us. So we're going to get on and do some paranormal. We've already had the word sad and the word attracted as well, which we believe before we did Hever Castle, and we do believe that certain queens are attracted to Andy's beard, being it like Henry VIII's beard. So we're using the beard as like a method of attracting female queen spirits forward, and see if this works today. So let's have a walk around.
Trigger object.
That's this fine Russian beard. Excuse me, guys, if I'm not being offensive. This very fine,
Soft.
18th century Russian beard is our little magnet for the queens of England. So let's go. Let's do it. All right, the Thames. So this is where they would have come up by boat from London, which is in that direction. We're about 30 miles away from the Tower of London by water. Andy's going to find out who came through with the message sad.
Who's sad? What's making you sad?
What's your name?
More about it. Yeah. What's your name?
We need to know who it is, really.
Who are you?
There was a lot.
Four lights.
4 lights. I'm wondering if that's means anything, like, is there a symbol for that? 4 lights? Or are they talking about orbs? Catherine Howard's ghost has been here quite a lot, seen, because it's on the corridor where she ran towards him to beg for her life, plead for her life.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if they've seen any orb ghosts in here.
Yeah, it's...
Not had any experiences like that.
Yeah.
Apart from the Catherine Howard ghost. She was only 16, 17 when she was married to him.
People have seen.
And he was like 50 at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I believe because he was, by that time, with his leg, he got so much infection down his leg and he couldn't walk or climb or anything, that when he went to bed, they had to hoist him. Dark energies everywhere.
Yeah,
well, that would be right for this place, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but...
It's got dark history.
Yeah, I mean...
It has got dark history because it started out...
Agony.
Oh yeah, we're getting a lot of painful messages coming through now, like bad, sad feelings.
Dark energy, he would have been...
Well, Cardinal Wolsey was a dark energy, really, because he was collecting money left, right and centre, and he built this place out of what money he got out of the churches. And look at it, it is a palace, isn't it? What's the Cardinal doing living in a palace to begin with?
The majority of people who lived here, who were with him, lived on a knife edge. Just like, if you said something to him on a bad, when he was having a bad day, it could end up with you losing your head.
Yeah.
You say it another day when he was having a good day, he'd be alright. But
he'd just throw his chicken drumsticks at you.
People were on a knife edge, and when he said, to people, well, what do you think? You were like, well, I really don't want to say, because if one day I could say what I'm thinking and we'll be alright, the next thing I'm, in prison and I'm ready for losing my head or, being executed. So people were very, very worried of what people would say. So, I mean, it would be a place of...
Yeah, definitely.
People were on an knife edge, and
So going briefly through the history of each queen, the first one,
Yeah.
Catherine of Aragon from Spain, she was married to him for 20 years and she produced the daughter, Queen Mary, Mary Queen of Scots.
The
And
devil
do we
is
get what
here.
then? The devil is here.
The devil is here. Yeah,
And
well,
who is the devil?
Yeah,
Is
well,
the devil Cardinal Wolsey or is the devil Henry VIII?
I think a bit of both, to be honest with you. I mean, supposedly up until he had that accident with his leg, he was a really nice person, and then obviously with the pain and the infection and everything like that, it affected his mind and the balance of his mind, and he just changed into a tyrant that could change his mind at the drop of a hat. He was like, I suppose what people would call not so much bipolar, but you know, like 1 minute he could be laughing and joking, and then just, you know, somebody brought him the wrong spoon to the table and he'd be like ready for killing everybody. So
But
he was very, very...
don't you think the infection could have caused that change in behaviour?
Yeah,
because
yeah.
now we've got antibiotics, right? But
Without
don't
a
forget
doubt.
one thing about Henry.
Without a doubt.
He could make all his own medicines.
Yeah.
He was well versed in making his own medicines out of herbs and things that were grown in Kew Gardens, which is just about 10 miles further down from here. When the plague broke out, one of the plagues broke out, which was only a short-lived one, but there was a plague broke out in the 1500s. He collected all the botanical plants he could and locked himself here at Hampton Court, and he ground with mortar and pestle and made the potions that he thought would cure the people of the plague. And he actually did cure Anne Boleyn, because he actually went out there to Hever to take some of the potion, and he said, I can't see her because she's got the plague, but I've ministered this to her, and she was cured of the plague. So it worked. So that's Hampton Court behind bars, because they're doing a lot of stuff, gardening and all that right now, and we can't go in some sections of it, so we're only going to go where we can. Going back to the history, Catherine of Aragon had Mary Queen of Scots. I always get this mixed up. Mary Queen of Scots was Elizabeth I's cousin. Bloody Mary was Mary Elizabeth I's Tudor sister. So if you hear Mary Queen of Scots, she was the cousin of Queen Elizabeth, the mother of James I. And Bloody Mary is Mary Elizabeth I's sister. So that's where I'm English and I get confused with it, yes. But we're surrounded by palaces here and you can't get the story wrong whilst you've got all this information at your fingertips. So what happened, Cardinal Wolsey, who was a Cardinal of Rome, lived here in this palace. It was his, gifted to him by Henry VIII. But when Anne Boleyn came on the scene, and Anne Boleyn was a lady in waiting to Catherine of Aragon, and Henry fell in love with her. But before he got together...
Stink.
Well, that would be the leg, wouldn't it?
That would be his leg, because when he... what's she called? Catherine Howard?
Yeah.
She was here. I mean, by the time he got that, I mean, he basically said, I want one of his wives, I can't be near her because she stinks, she's fat, and she's this, that, and the other.
That was Anna Cleves.
And people were like, well, actually, it's probably not her, it's probably you, because, yeah, I mean...
I think it's more likely to be the infected leg, to be fair.
So, I'm getting stuff here. Are you somebody who was married to the king, you know, and was killed by him?
So you got the infected leg by jousting on horseback with his friends.
Can you...
He come off the horse and got wounded, and then he got infected.
I suppose I have to be really respectful here.
Do what you want if it gets them through.
I don't know how I'm supposed to greet you, but is it possible, whoever you are, could you give me your name? Because that would be nice. I'm just a commoner in a bob hat.
But if you put on the Henry VIII outfit, you could quite easily pass for him. But we'd have to chub you out a bit, like round the waist though. We'd have to bulk you out a little bit, because he had a bit of a girth by the time he was down to his fourth wife. Every time he got a new wife, his girth expanded. Lucky you've only got the one.
Yeah,
if you'd have had 6 wives, your girth might have expanded. If you'd have had 7 wives, his girth would have been out here. Anyway, we're talking about his infected leg, not his girth. He was such an attractive king, this one. Well, he did like his food. That was his main thing.
Very unhealthy food.
Because whenever he built a palace, the most important part of it for him was the kitchens. He wanted to make sure they was big enough to accommodate all the food he ate.
But like, doctors and everything saying to him, you should be eating better foods and stuff like that. And he was eating rich stuff. So obviously, there was a bit of gout in, he had gout as well as that, which can cause him, the foods he was eating didn't do him any help at all, and I know he knew all these different remedies and stuff like that, but it didn't do him any good at all, did it, to be honest with you, because he just ignored everything else because of who he was. But can you tell us who you are, please? Whoever you are, come with the utmost respect. We're not mean you any harm, any disrespect or anything like that. We're just interested in the history, the true history, not what people have written down or what people have rumours and stuff like that. We want to know the truth from the people who were here, the people who were about at the time, the people who were talking,
people who worked at the palaces.
Their story, even if it's people who worked here and died here.
I came from a dark place.
You came from a dark place.
Well, you know what? Catherine Howard came from an orphanage in Lambeth.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was only because she was a Howard and related to the Howard family that she got a job, really, at Hampton Court. And that's how she caught Henry's eye.
Is this who we're talking to? You can tell me, you can tell us your name. You can tell us your name because there's no harm going to come to you.
Nothing can happen to you now.
Nothing can happen to you now. You've nobody to worry about,
The dark place could be the orphanage at Lambeth because she was there till she was 16 and that's where she had the...
Go left.
Please go left. Okay, let's continue.
We'll go left.
Could be Catherine Howard. She was Henry's fifth wife, 16 to 17 years of age. She had a boyfriend called Francis Dereham who she was seeing when she was at the orphanage still because she was at the orphanage till she was 16. And she met Thomas Culpepper right here at this court and they were dating behind Henry's back.
I'm Andy, this is Alison. So could you tell us your name please and who you are? What keeps you here? What keeps you here? You just said go left, please go left. So we're going to go left. Who are you? Argue.
Yeah, well, you know what? They had an argument in the corridor, didn't they?
Did you?
He'd already sentenced her to the Tower of London, and she was running down the corridor screaming after him, and she even skidded across the floor on her knees, begging for him to show mercy. I'm 17 years old, and Thomas Culpepper was my previous boyfriend before you, and Francis Dereham was a previous boyfriend before you. You are my king, my husband, my one true love. And that corridor is haunted, but we're not allowed to film in that corridor, because there's so many priceless antiques and paintings. We're not allowed to film in there, but we can do out here because they would have come out here to the Thames to get boats. They would have strolled out around the grounds. These grounds would have been extensive back then. There wouldn't have been all these buildings and things. It would have been all.
Can you give us your name, please?
Palace Ground.
I'd like to hear your name. I'd like you to know who you are.
I'm thinking we've got Catherine Howard.
I'd like to know who we're talking to. Can you just give us your name? There's nothing to be afraid of anymore. Absolutely nothing to be afraid of anymore. Yeah.
So I'll just go a little bit with the history so people know the run of the Queens one after the other. So Henry actually had an affair with Mary Boleyn first, Anne's older sister, and she gave birth to a son called Henry. So therefore, if he'd have married her, he would have had his male heir to the throne, but they didn't marry. And Henry became Henry Fitzroy, a landowner, a very wealthy landowner of Britain.
Did you argue a lot?
He met Anne Boleyn by then, the sister, and he had a 7-year affair with Anne. She wouldn't sleep with him or anything until she got married to him and was made queen. That was the deal. And when she eventually got that...
Collapsed? Did you collapse at his feet?
She did. Catherine Howard did.
Collapsed at his feet?
Yes, she did. This is her, I think.
Can you tell me your name, please? Just like to know your name, and then you can tell us your story. Not mean you any harm, any disrespect.
She did collapse at his feet.
Like that.
She collapsed. Also, on the day she was going up to be executed, they had to carry her up to the block at the Tower Green, where we were yesterday, the Tower of London.
Dark.
Dark.
This is her. I'm
Is
sure
it
it's
all
her.
dark now? You don't have to stay here, you know. You can go
You would have been dark in the
to a
tower.
better place. You're not stuck here. Do
You think about it, right? They took her from here by boat,
calmness?
30 miles, down to the Tower of London, in through Traitor's Gate, and on spikes on either side of Traitor's Gate was the head of Francis Dereham, the ex-boyfriend, and Thomas Culpeper, the ex-boyfriend, and that's how she found out they'd been executed. They took her through that gate by boat with their severed heads, one on either side, on spikes. And then they locked her up in the tower, and she requested the block that they used to chop Anne Boleyn's head off. And they brought her that block, and she lay all night with her head on the block practicing whether to put her neck this way or that. And then in the morning, she was...
to the forest.
The forest. Well, this would have been all... You know, this was Henry's hunting ground.
Yeah, it would have been.
All this
All this would have been forest.
was Henry's... This is where he used to come to chase deer because his deer park was here.
Yeah, because all this here, there would have been no buildings around.
Oh, none of this,
It would have
no.
been all just trees and woods and everything.
Yeah,
like that, so.
we're getting some good messages here.
Yeah.
We're getting significant messages to relate to the particular marriage of
But can you give me some names?
Catherine Howard and Henry.
So all we ask for is can you give us your names? It would be really, really helpful for us to tell your story. Can you tell us
Have we got any of the
what
story
connection you
wrong?
are?
Has some of the story been put out incorrect?
You know, it's time to people to know the full story of who you were. So can you give us your name? That's all we ask.
It's the Thames going.
So happy if we could give us your name.
Yeah, that way it's going towards the sea. And behind us it's going towards the Tower of London, which is 30 miles away. And the castle is back here. So we're going to walk up and see if we can show you a little bit more. The unfortunate thing about a lot of these castles in England, particularly the ones in London, is we're not allowed to film inside because they've got like valuable antiques and paintings and things like that, and they don't like to let you know the location of them in case anybody wants to do a heist, you know, and get in and bust the jewels out and things. That's why we're only able to do on the outside really this kind of filming. You can take photos, but you're not allowed to film by video because you're showing too much like the location of this valuable painting or that valuable crown, or you know, we don't want to get mistook for jewel heists people. So
Heal, as in what? Has time healed? Is that what happened?
or are we talking about Henry's wound,
Heal.
the infected
Did your
leg?
wound, did it heal?
Come on, Henry, let's get you through. Come and answer some of these questions because
Okay.
we're talking to your wives,
Hang on a
but
second, another track now. If it is Henry, you can't do anything to me now. You can't do it, so I'm going to give it you straight now, man to man. Yeah.
beard to beard.
What happened? What happened?
Beard wars.
As
We're gonna have
have the
we're
historians
gonna have an episode of beard wars.
have the historians got you all wrong? You know, you might think I'm below you, but actually at this moment in time I'm well above you, so, and I'm not in the slightest bit afraid of you because there's nothing you can do.
If you go head
can't
to
have
head.
my head cut off, so I don't care.
If you go head to
So,
head with Henry
come on,
VIII, we've got
come on.
beard wars.
Come on, big fella.
Beard wars, Hampton Court.
Come on, big fella. Tell me all about it. What happened?
Beard wars,
At the
Hampton
end
Court.
of the day, you weren't the issue about not being able to have a son. Sorry, the women weren't the issue about you. not
6
being
women
able-
can't be a problem.
It was you.
You must have been firing blanks.
And you were very, very.
6 women cannot be a problem.
You were very, very conscious of it that you weren't a real man. At the end of the day, so
I don't believe that 6 women can be a problem.
no. The main problem was you.
Because think about it, right?
You were overweight and you stunk.
Mary Boleyn went on to have a couple of other children after the son, so she was able to produce children easily enough. So he was out probably firing blanks.
Yeah, he was.
Were you firing blanks, Henry?
All is well.
All is well. So obviously he wasn't firing blanks. Well, he thinks he was all right down there.
Oh, as well.
But how did he have 6 wives and none of them were happy? That's what I'd like to know. He couldn't have been that good, could he? Anyway, talking aside, back to the history. After Anne Boleyn was executed at the Tower, she was married to him for 3 years, and then she was executed in the place where she was sort of like crowned Queen of England. But when she was crowned Queen of England that particular day, hardly anybody in London turned out to see her because they weren't happy with it. They weren't happy that Henry had broken away from the Catholic Church and formed his own Church of England so he could marry her. A lot of people opposed it. So a lot of people wanted to plot her downfall. So she was accused of being a witch. She was accused of sleeping. Yeah, he was ginger. You should know that. Why?
Come on, Ginger, let's be having you. Gentleness.
So he's coming across all gentle and light with you. Maybe he didn't like being challenged by men.
Well, maybe it could be some... You know how they say, you don't necessarily come back in the spirit world as you were when you passed.
Are you saying you're a reincarnation of Henry VIII?
No, what I'm saying is, you can come back at a time when if you were coming back in the spirit world, you would come back at a time where was your best time, wasn't it? So
yeah,
maybe his better times was when he was younger and he did have a sense of humour and he was very compassionate.
Yeah.
Until he had the injury.
When he was married to Catherine of Aragon and his first 3 years with Anne Boleyn were his healthiest and happiest, then it all went downhill from there for him, health-wise anyway.
Or maybe we're outside the door that leads to the Hampton Court banqueting.
Oh yeah, the kitchens, of course. That would be important to him, wouldn't it, the kitchens?
So what was your favourite food? Come on.
Yeah, come forward, Henry, and talk to us.
Good idea.
We're at your...
saying it was one of those custard tarts.
Well, he had 6 wives and several tarts.
There were them custard tarts that we made out of Maribor.
Maribor? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Where have you heard this?
Maribor jelly. That's what
I
that
never
bloke
had
did
this.
on that recipe.
Did he?
He made it. He made a custard tart made with Maribor jelly. And he said it tasted a bit beef, but it was very, very sugary.
Yeah.
Which basically didn't do him any good at all. Am I right in saying that?
Actually, yeah, he did do that with Tudor menu.
You were eating you know, do you now think you should have listened to your doctors more? You know?
I've been here 150 years.
No, you've been here a
So
lot
what would
longer
that
than
take us back to then? 1850? 1870?
Yeah, 1870. So who are you? What's your name?
This was a museum by then.
You know, you need to be telling me your name. You know, in all this time I've not had one name.
They were very...
I've not had one name at all.
They were very, you know, they kept the names quiet in them days because they didn't want people to know who they were and what the movements were.
You know, a lot's changed now. You know, it's not them and us now. So we're here to tell your story. You can use us as like your biographer or whatever you call, and what you tell us we can put out into the world and they can tell you the story. If the stories about whoever we're talking to are wrong, then it's your time to be able to tell us the truth. You know, and I mean, there was a lot of people who there were a lot of things going on. There was a lot of people doing things just for their own. We can knock. What can you knock on?
Oh, right, we need to find some wood. What about this door? Do you want to knock on that door and see if we get a knock back? Don't forget, sometimes we pick these knocks up on camera, although we don't actually hear it. It's happened at Skirridin in Wales.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. I'm going to knock 3 times. Can you do it back? Did you hear me knock?
Well, we don't know if we've got it on camera because how many times now have we asked for knocks and we haven't got it, but we've got it when we've watched it back. It's been on the camera there.
It would have been even funnier if somebody had opened it.
If the banqueting master comes out with a tray full of custard pies. Mince pies. Yeah, so anyway, let's go back to a little bit more of the history. So we get to Jane Seymour, which is wife number 3. So Jane, she was brought from her home. If you've watched the movie, the Netflix set Wolf Hall, or read the book Wolf Hall, it's about her and her entrance into this, life of Henry VIII. Sister, Mary Boleyn.
Yeah, well...
Mary Boleyn, that's the only sister I can think of that's got any significance to this particular palace.
Was you?
Mary Boleyn lived and worked here as well.
Was it your sister who married him, or were you the sister who was?
Mary Boleyn, she was
The
within
first sister who was with him,
3 years
who you?
before Anne.
I don't know whether you were promised marriage eventually, but he eventually went to your sister.
He didn't actually, because he had a fling with Bessie Blount first for a couple of years. And then when he got fed up with Bessie Blount, he kicked her out, beheaded her brother Henry Blount, and then moved on to Mary Boleyn, who he had a fling with for 3 years. And she gave birth to Henry Fitzroy. And then when he seen Anne, he dumped her and moved on to the sister. So that would be the sister, Mary Boleyn, I'm thinking.
Are we right?
And George Boleyn was the brother who also got executed before Anne, just before Anne.
Are we right with what you were saying? What we were saying? Sin.
Well, yeah, because
Whoa.
he'd slept with Mary Boleyn as a kid, which was Henry Fitzroy. She went off to marry someone and had 2 other children, and they brought all 3 up together as their own.
Is that what you feel like? It was a sin.
Was, wasn't it, really?
It was your choice. It was his choice. It was your choice, or it wasn't your choice.
She probably thought she was going to marry him and become Queen of England, because the Boleyns wanted power, didn't they? So he was just basically pushing any daughter. Yeah, he was. He was pimping his daughters out. He'd even pimp his son out, George, if he'd have married George. So basically, the Boleyns and the Howards wanted power.
Can you give us a name?
So Jane Seymour did give birth to a boy, Edward. Unfortunately, she died about 10 weeks after that birth. And then Edward was cared for by his nurses. And because it was his only son in marriage, Henry was very overprotective of Edward. He wouldn't let him go out anywhere. He kept him wrapped up all the time, looked after by his nurses. So the boy became very weak. And he had no immunity, so he literally caught every cough, cold, fever, flu and everything there was, measles, chickenpox, the lot. Yeah, so he only lived till he was 15, and he was very weak and he died. So the son that Henry had was gone by the time he was 15, didn't even become king. So I think actually, I'm trying to think now, did he actually reign for a little bit as king? I think he died during Henry's lifetime. I'll need to check that history out, and if anyone can put me right on that, please do, because sometimes you're jumping back and forth to certain eras of history. It's like time travelling. You're trying your best to remember every single thing, and everything's to hand, but sometimes remembering it isn't.
I know I sound like I'm pushing, but I just want somebody to give me a name. You know, it would be so helpful. It would be so nice. It would be respectful of you. You know, if we're talking to each other, it would be nice to know each other's names. I've given you mine.
Get away from here.
Really?
No, I'm not getting away.
Get away from here. Why should we get away from here? Why do you want us to leave Hampton
I'm not
Court?
going to get away from here until you tell me to either go or you tell me.
Why do you want us to get away from here?
You need to tell me.
Why?
Or else I'm not going to go. You
Why
can't
must we
make me
leave
go.
the castle?
You can't make me go. You can't make me go.
Well, this was really King Henry's court, weren't it? Hampton
So
Court.
I'm challenging you. You need to either tell me to go and leave, or you need to tell me who you are. I'm not taking no for an answer. So let's be having you, whoever you are. I'm not bothered who you are.
Don't forget we're Lancastrians and we carry the red rose of the Tudor. We're actually on your side.
So come on, let's be having you. Who are you? If you want us to go, you're gonna have to be a bit more, forceful in your words than that. You need to
Well,
be
let's walk down and show a bit more of the palace from the front.
escorting us from the place,
Yeah, so
because we're not going.
after Jane, Henry went into a real doom and gloom depression for a good year. He locked himself in his chambers and wouldn't come out, and they were getting really worried about him. He'd lost interest in food, he'd lost interest in parties and everything. He said, "My favourite queen, my best wife has died, gone, left me." So they decided we need to pick a new wife for Henry to cheer him up. So they selected several princesses, and
Who was Arthur? Arthur who?
Arthur was Henry's older brother that died. Arthur should have been king.
Arthur's the only one. Arthur's the name that I've got through.
Well, Arthur,
Would he have lived it?
I think he was on the throne for 2 years and then he died and then Henry had to take over. He was the younger brother. So Arthur was Henry's older brother.
His wife, didn't he?
Catherine of Aragon was Arthur's wife. Because there was all that commotion. At first they weren't going to let Henry marry her because she'd been married 2 years to Arthur and they were saying she wasn't pure. And she was saying that nothing happened between her and Arthur, that's why there was no child. So then they let her marry Henry. So Arthur was the older brother who died, who would have been king. So I'm guessing that, he would have been. No, because this was Cardinal Wolsey's place. This didn't happen for Henry until when he wanted to marry Anne, he took this place on. But Arthur was then Henry's older brother who was king for a couple of years, not long. He didn't live that long.
So are we right in what we're saying? Are we right in what we're saying? Yeah? Are you... Can you give us any other names if we're wrong with this? Can you tell us who you are?
Let's have a walk up and film the front of it.
Trees.
Yeah, well this was all forest back in them days. Henry came here because it was his hunting lodge. He came to live here because it was good for hunting. So we'll show you a little bit as much as we can since we're locked out at the minute because they're doing all kinds of usual in England, shut things down and do renovation work when people want to come and see it.
Yeah.
So this is Hampton Court from the front. It was Cardinal Wolsey's palace. So when you hear of the court of King Henry VIII, this is his court. This was the place, it was his playground. He came here for his banquets and his feasts and his parties and his hunting.
Can you tell us another name and anybody else who you've been talking
Do you want to come back over to the Thames?
Yeah.
It's a bit more picturesque this side. So if you go in that direction down the Thames, you come to eventually Deptford, where they used to hang the pirates in the 1600s, 1500s, 1600s, and then later on, 1700s is where the famous ships were built, like Captain Cook's Endeavour, Discovery and Adventurer ships.
It's them.
It's them.
Who is it? It's them. Who's them? Who's them?
You can imagine down here in the day, can't you? Stone steps coming up and boats coming in with lanterns lit. And then there would have been big high walls around here and doors where you could just knock on. Yeah, they've been like stone steps where they came up jetties and stuff. And when they used to go from Hampton Court back down into London, they used to have those long gondola boats with the flying the flag and all the trumpeters on board. And they're all wearing the same cloth, the same coat of arms stuff with the 3 lions on and all that.
But if you look at it, how quick that forge of water is, going probably is quite easy because of how quickly it's flowing. But coming back must have been hard if you were going.
I think the worst bit was down London Bridge area to Westminster area because Cardinal Wolsey, there's actually been a book written about him, and Cardinal Wolsey, he used to get off the boat, let his boatman paddle down and towards Westminster, then he'd get back on the boat, he'd go by coach and horses to Westminster and get back on because he was too scared to make that journey by water because it was like the rapids.
Who's hungry? Come on, give us some names, come on. I crave a name. Whose palace was this? Tell me whose palace it was. Because if you want us to go, you need to be telling us who wants us to go. There's no point just saying, we need to leave. I need to be being the person who wants me to leave. I need to be known. Alexander.
Well, that sounds like a royal name. Can't place it, but it's people that connect to here, isn't it?
Who's Alexander? Have you got the right to tell me to leave this area? Because I need to be being told by somebody whose property this is, or was. Not by somebody who just lived or worked here, I want to be knowing the owner to tell me to get out. Because I don't take it. I don't take it from anybody other than the owner of the building. If the owner of the building wants me to go and leave, then you need to be telling me. So you need to be being a bit forthcoming, shall we say, forsooth. You know, if the person who owns this building or owned it and owned this land and who lived here wants me to leave, then you need to be coming out and telling me your name and then telling me to go, and I will bid you good morrow.
Do you remember when we got that? When we did the all-night fire thing at Rivington Castle, and then we went, the birds are singing It's Morning, and somebody came through and went, good morrow.
Warmth. Are you bidding me warmth?
I was just talking about fire, weren't I?
I'll tell you what.
Andy. I was just talking about fire at Rivington Castle.
Warmth. Can we come in for a brew then?
Brew. It would have been like mulled wine back then. I didn't have a brew.
I don't want that. I don't want your mould, and I don't want your wine either. I could do with a warm pot of coffee actually. No. On a scone.
I had to throw an iron in the works. Coffee didn't come into this country till about the 1700s. They'd all just started getting tropical fruits here then from, they didn't really start sailing properly around the world till Francis Drake in Elizabeth's time, so...
Do tea? No.
They always drank beer and wine in those days.
Oh,
they didn't touch the water because it was
Oh,
contaminated.
there's not much use. They've not got a lot to offer me then. They do.
That's why they were always leathered. This is why the axemen, when they was chopping off heads, had to do 3, 4, 5 blows before they actually got their head off, because they were never sober. Coffee came in the sort of 1700s when we started travelling across to the Americas.
Well, can you not squeeze me a few oranges and I'll have orange juice?
Yeah, they got that kind of fruit. Henry first saw the first pineapple and the first star fruit brought into Britain, because they actually had a big party to celebrate the arrival of these fruits. He'd never seen them before. These pineapples with the stalk coming out the top and the star fruits, which are star shaped. He thought they was like...
Can you show yourself?
Magical fruits.
Wonders?
Did you hear me?
We didn't hear you. You need to try a bit louder, please.
I'm sorry, but you need to be a bit more right in me, right in our ears, right up close. Say something.
Did you hear something? There's people shouting over there from Ye Olde Worldy Ice Rink with Mariah Carey playing at full blast.
I thought I heard you go.
Really? Let's see if we picked it up on camera, innit?
I can't. I thought I heard you go.
Well, maybe you've heard it then. But we'll see if we picked it up on this or not. I didn't hear anything, but if you said it in your ear.
I thought I heard you go.
Who wants us to go?
Can you say that again? I count to 3 and say 1, 2, 3. Tell me again.
They probably don't like us lurking around here. And you gonna let us in?
Let me in.
We're doing the story of Henry's 6 wives.
Yeah.
We need to get back to the Henry's wives. So Anne of Cleves was the next wife after Jane Seymour, who came from Holland to Germany, possibly Germany, and they didn't like each other at all. There was no attraction there. It didn't happen. So after about 6 weeks, he shipped her out to Anne Boleyn's house, Hever Castle, and let her live there. And they became good friends. Actually, he didn't behead her or anything.
9.
He didn't have 9 wives. Surely, there's only 6. He probably had 3 mistresses and 6 wives. That would be the 9.
I didn't think he had more than 9.
Well, there was Bessie Blount, there was Mary Boleyn, there had to be others.
Oh, there was loads, and the ones that he even done. dominant.
He was very dominant. Unless Anne of Cleves was dominant. Maybe he's meaning that because she was quite strong. That's why he didn't like her. She wouldn't succumb to what he wanted. She was like, my way or the highway. And she was a very, how should we say, masculine German woman who took no crap.
Yeah.
So she basically told Henry what she thought of him from the first day. She actually said to him, he was dressed up in some costume with a mask and all that, and he was all over her laughing and joking, and she just shoved him away and went, you repulse me, like that. So instantly he disliked her.
Yeah.
And that was it. But then he moved her to Hever Castle, and he built her a house on the banks of the river there, which she could live in. But you can still see it if you go to Hever Castle. The ruins are still there. And she then became friends with him. And whenever he was having a bad time, he used to go down by boat to Hever to see her and get her advice and all that, and then come back here.
Yeah, they did.
So they became friends.
They were like brother and sister.
Yeah, then it was Catherine Howard after that, which is the one who haunts this place. Now, Catherine has been seen in this place. She's the 16, 17-year-old girl who had 2 boyfriends and then had to, by force, marry Henry. Now, think about it right. She's 16, 17, yeah? So she's a kid, she's got a boyfriend, she's getting dressed up, she's dancing to the latest music, she's having the time of her life, yeah? And then Henry comes along, this 50-year-old, who's already been married 4 times, who's got an infected leg, which is dragging it along. His girth is like 5 wives worth by now. And he's repulsive, really. He doesn't bathe because of the leg, so he smells to high heaven. And this young, attractive girl has got to marry him, right? Because the parents want it, because it's a land and money thing that's going on. So it's all right.
You're very kind.
Yeah. So what happened, I believe, was Catherine in the bedroom. He used to climb into the bed, helped by about 4 or 5 manservants, and lie on his back. And then they used to hoist her up on ropes and lower her down onto him, because that was the only way they could try and produce this air that he so badly wanted. Think about it, 16, 17 years of age.
Very kind.
How would you feel if you were 16 or 17 years of age and they brought this 50-year-old overweight, obese woman with like an infected leg, and then they said to you, right, Andy, you two have got to produce a child of some description. So how are we going to do this? She can't walk, climbing her out of bed. She's an infected leg. She's bloated. She's this, she's that. So she's going to lie on the bed, and we're going to hoist you up on ropes and lower you down. How would you
Hoist me
feel?
up on ropes.
Catherine Howard had to get hoisted up on ropes and lowered down on him to try and produce this air. But don't forget, they was all watching. They was all stood around watching to make sure that they did the deed, to make sure that they was trying to produce a second heir, because Edward, I think he'd already passed by, though I'm not quite sure.
It costs you a fortune these days to have that done.
Well, he'd already got Elizabeth
Yeah,
by Anne Boleyn, so he got Mary by his first queen, Catherine. He got Elizabeth I by Anne Boleyn, and he got Edward by Jane Seymour. But Edward died at 15, so he desperately needed this heir. And since Catherine Howard was young, so the bedroom, it was all hoists and ropes and people standing around making sure that the deed was done and that they was going to have this baby. But because when they did a tour of England, and Francis Dereham and Thomas Culpeper went with them because they were working for this court, and she was off dancing with them, having a fling with them. She was girlfriend to Thomas Culpeper, and that's how it all turned sour for her. Well, it's pretty sour enough to begin with, weren't it? Being hoisted up on ropes.
You know, you got to...
And all that took place here. All that took place right here. Right here.
No matter what how his mind was, he must have realised that nothing was ever going to come of it. Because, you know, it's surely, for a so-called intelligent man, he should have realised that that was never going to happen. You know, I think deep down he must have known that. I mean, come on, at that age, the way he was, nothing. I mean, it's just.
Which brings us to the last and final queen of Henry, which was. Alright, so we had Catherine Parr was the last and final queen of Henry VIII. and she outlived him. But they do say that if she'd have lived, she may also have been beheaded.
Yeah.
Because she was starting to break away from the Catholic Church and from Henry's Church of England and form a third church which was coming into effect in those days, which was kind of like a Baptist church, if you like. And with her friends and followers, she was starting to go out and campaign
Go left again.
to get this church off the ground, and Henry didn't know anything about that. But he was very sick by then, and he was bedridden and being looked after, so there wasn't much he could do. But I think if he was fit, healthy, well and young, he would have had her also executed and moved on to the 7th, because she wasn't doing what she was told. He liked his wives to behave and do, what they were told. So who knows what the outcome would have been for Catherine Parr had she had lived. So this is Hampton Court, and this is us saying goodbye for now. And we'll show you one last shot of it before we go, and we'll see you very soon on another location in London, which I think is going to be Westminster next.
Yeah.
So we'll say goodbye from King Henry VIII's Hampton Court. See you guys later.